So today we're going to be talking about the contrast of my last video, which is why it's hard for men to provide as far as modern men and all that shit. Today we're going to be going over how feminism has messed things up for women, mainly how women have landed in a provider position and how that's fucked things up for them. So we're going to go back deep into time, and I'm going to let you know I'm freestyling this because this is one of my first videos. I don't expect it to get much traction. I know I got to build a catalog. So you are going to see me dumping a lot of videos to build the catalog, to get the fucking algorithm to understand what your boy is trying to do here and get these to the right people. So let's just get into it. So if we go back deep into time, we talking again, 30s and all that stuff. And what was going on was women really didn't have the right to work and all types of shit. That's just what it was for the most part. Yeah, you might see a waitress and stuff like that, but when we get to World War II, around World War II, there was like some big movement as far as women being able to work and women to earn livable wages and stuff like that. There was a movement for that because a lot of people's husbands were fighting the war. That's just what it was, because back then people got used to getting married young. That's just what it, especially chicks, they just getting married like at young ages. We not gonna go too deep on that. But with that, they still needed to be able to provide for their family and shit like that. Government assistance wasn't out around this time, when World War II was going on. So that was one of the things that put women in position to, work. And outside of that, we are going to go forward with, more women's rights and stuff like that, more feminism and stuff like that. And basically they were fighting for, the ability to have equal wages, equal pay, all that stuff. When the wage gap actually did exist and women were being discriminated against. So, they get those rights at some point between like the 60s and the 80s and shit like that. Somewhere in between those points. We also have to talk about one thing, even though most white people, not most white people, but most of the people on welfare are white people. If we look at just pure numbers, government assistance was made to pretty much kick the black man out of the household and stuff like that. That's one thing that it was meant to condition black people towards, specifically black women, black mothers and stuff like that. And I just want to give you this quick tidbit about that. So you can go back and look into this. There's even a movie about it. If I ever redo this video, I will have the movie name. But back then, you were not able to have government assistance as far as housing, government housing, and have a man, not even a husband, a man. They will send a social worker to your crib randomly. They knock on the door, and if you got a man, you a single mom with a man, y'all got to hide that nigga. He's got to get the fuck up out of there through a back door, or he's got to be hidden in a closet someplace where the social worker won't find him. Because if she finds him, now y'all about to be a part of the ultimate struggle. Y'all gonna get evicted, and y'all gotta actually go and get housing somewhere else. And you better hope that that man that you've been laying with is willing to, help provide and put food on the table and all that stuff. So that's one of the things. And that's where all of this, the government steps in to be the man for the woman. Now, there is a lot, and don't get it twisted, even though that was made to impact black people, there is a lot of collateral damage when it comes to white people as far as that. But, when you look at things like that, the marriage laws, which are also a part of feminism and stuff like that, and how they are tilted towards the women and et cetera, there are a lot of ways where the government, Uncle Sam, tries to step in and be the man to the woman who chooses to leave you. The government chooses to take that provider role, and that pretty much sparks a lot of the independence where they feel like they don't need no man because the government is going to step in. So many chicks be mad on Facebook about the Section 8 list and not being on the Section 8 list because that's the life that they want to live. That's the life that they chose to live. Even if it's not, once they land in that life, even if that wasn't the intention, they actually want a man and stuff like that, it's so much, again, with the feminism, it's so much glorification of the single motherhood and things of that nature to where they completely embrace it and go along with the glorification and feed themselves these narratives and put the narratives out into the public to help, brainwash other women and stuff like that. But let's continue. So you got all of those things, and we could go down the list. Like, you could literally do your own homework and figure out all the things that led up to now and what used to be. So this is the issue. We get to now. Again, like I mentioned in the other video, black women, most educated demographic probably on the fucking planet, but we'll just say in America, because that's what the statistics say. They got the most college degrees, but I guarantee you they got the most debt along with that shit. And again, they be on Dave Ramsey's show trying to figure out how to get rid of that $300,000 that's looming over their head. But even with that $300,000 with interest, let me say that again, with interest, that's looming over their head, they still are making good income. They're still making good income. That debt that they have is some hidden shit that you'll only find out if you are awake. If you're not awake, if you're asleep at the wheel, after you get with her and after y'all really locked in, and probably even after you married, So with all of that being said, them getting to a point where you got these components going on, basically them earning the highest wages they've ever earned, very high wages, them also having this whole I can be independent, I don't need no man culture that has been cultivated all the way from motherfucking Destiny's Child music all the way down to like the Foxy Brown fucking movie era and the blaxploitation and all of that shit. All of this shit that's been cultivated, but you also have whole culture and all that shit. We'll just leave that alone, but we'll just take those two components. The I don't need no man shit. And you could even couple that with I'm not settling, all that shit. But also them being, I don't want to say hyper providers, but them having high income, putting them in a provider position. And then this last component, which is a very key piece, hypergamy. Women date up. You've heard the fucking hypergamy shit all the time. Don't let none of these niggas try and convince you that they created it or they made it up or, oh, you're stealing my shit because you mentioned hypergamy and I put it in my book, even though it was in other books before I wrote my book, but I brought it to this space. Fuck all that shit. Hypergamy has been around for motherfucking millennia, my nigga, like through all of humanity. Women date up. So when you think about dating up, what are the things that women try to date up on? Because the man has to be superior to the woman for the woman to really, truly admire him. That's just what it is. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm bored and I just, I decided to get this nigga some pussy. No, I'm talking about she really, really likes this guy. She got to be superior in some way. Just got to keep it 500,000. Because women want guys that are better than them. So with that being said, money is a major, it's the primary factor when we talk about chicks who are in their late 20s, early 30s and up. Because the thing is, when chicks are, and I could break this down, I could break down the whole hypergamy shit another day. But when chicks are in their early 20s. They are trying to have fun and stuff like that. They just fucking, you got to think about what it is at that point. At that point, they want high status dudes and physically attractive dudes. That's just what it is. So high status doesn't even have to be like, oh man, I'm fucking Lil Wayne. It just has to be, man, this is a fucking star football player at the college I'm at, or even he's just on the football team, or even he's a fucking promoter, or even he's just fucking popular. He's just fucking popular. That's where the bar is for a 20-year-old bitch. Not 21, not 25, but a 20-year-old bitch. He's just got to be popular. Like, that's where the fucking bar is. But then, you know, if you got certain other things in the black community, like chicks love thugs. I just seen a chick on Facebook talking about, yeah, I just got through my thug phase. I'm done with hood niggas. Da, 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 da. When you start hearing that type of shit, and again, we muscle and all that, you know, all of that. Niggas with tattoos, niggas that dress good, like all of that shit that is organic. And those are things, all those things that I mentioned are things that really make the coochie wet. But when chicks get to a certain point, they want security. They want stability. They want to stop playing the game. They want a nigga that's really going to provide for them. They want a nigga that's going to put chicken on the table. They want somebody that they could just ease and sit back with. And you know, all of this, unlock my femininity so that I don't have to da-da-da-da-da, all that shit. They want that. So that's how come the whole conversation and what they want and the fake standards that they set changes when they get to these like 30s and up. Because at that point, they want security. They want a provider. The issue with that is when you are boss bitch Omega 5000 with motherfucking the Ambition 6.0 upgrade, when you were that bitch, it is going to be hard for, like, dog, and this is shit that you've heard before. It's going to be hard for you to find a guy that is superior to you financially, especially at your fucking age, because this is the thing. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. We ain't about to sugarcoat nothing. A lot of these chicks be popped when they hit that 35, 45. Some of them just be popped at 30 and 28. Dog, that's just what it is. You fucked away your best years sucking basketball player cock. Some of y'all was even on the fly out. Y'all was getting flown out. Some of them be getting flown out into their 30s because they still be cold. But what they don't realize is the winter is coming. They don't realize that their best asset is their beauty, and your beauty is directly attached to your youth. And in your prime, you might not have the best mind and the most seasoned mind to get the dude that you want. But if you at least apply yourself during that time frame, you could pretty much land pretty high, you know, for whatever you can get. In comparison to you being this boss bitch that's like, now you don't have the same physical appeal. You can't compete with the young bitches. Then on top of that, you want a baller nigga. You can't even settle for a regular nigga. You want a nigga that's gonna make 80,000 plus. You know, everybody say 6 figures, but on the low end of that, it's gonna be 75, 80,000. You want that nigga. But guess what? The 75, $80,000 nigga, if he is anything under 50, and even some 50-year-old niggas be getting busy, but if he's anything under 50, he could really have his way with a lot of 20-year-olds and early 30 babes. That's just what it is. And I'm not saying every dude is going to be the man, because you still got to have some of that shit. You know, you still got to have some of that sauce. You still got to have some of that game. But the dudes who are balling, you, and even then, this is the other thing about it. You don't just want the nigga that's like, he just got the money, because if you get a weenie with some money, you're going to cheat. That's the other thing. They still gonna cheat. So that's the thing. When you look at those two aspects, from my last video and this video, if you look at how hard it is for a man to get into a provider position in comparison to how easy it was back then. How easy it was back then. You just go to the steel mill, you just go become a mechanic, you got a livable wage, you good, and your girl is gonna love you. She don't really care about the status or the type of, like, you know, occupation that you got, as long as you are able to provide and put food on the table and she like you as a person. When you compare that back then, how easy it is to provide back then versus now as far as getting in that position for a man. But then on the contrast, you look at all these chicks who are just like hyper ambitious and focused on getting the money and stuff like that. But they still want a nigga superior to them. They want a nigga to make more money. And this is one thing that I did discuss. If you want to compare like the men to the women and stuff like that, you know, you would look at it on the surface and say, oh, well, these niggas is bitches. These niggas ain't ambitious enough. These niggas ain't stepping up to the plate. That's why the women getting more money. This is the thing. I feel like a lot of the dudes process this shit logically. They look at it and they see that this college shit is not what it is. They see, I don't want to go to college, pay over $100,000 to get a fucking bachelor's degree, and then still stick around in school to get the master's and run that shit up to like 300,000 or some shit, 300,000, then be in debt for the rest of my life and be in this career that I don't even know if I'm actually gonna fuck with. That's a risk that I think most dudes assess and they say, fuck that shit. I will figure something else out. I will stall them out. That's because a lot of dudes are stepping away from college, if you didn't know. But when it comes to bays, specifically black women, because they are the most educated, I don't think that they really process that shit. I think it just be like, I got good grades. Fuck it. Let me just go do this shit. I don't got a scholarship that's going to pay for all of this shit. I might have a partial scholarship, but I'm going to just go in and I'm going to just do this shit because this is what's been told to me by society, what you're supposed to do. And they just go with the flow on some sheep shit, on some sheep in the herd shit. And then again, they end up on Dave Ramsey, you know, da-da-da-da-da. So them being in the provider position, that sounds great. But, you know, America, and specifically these institutions, are castrating people for them to make a good living. And it's the craziest scam ever. But with that being said, you get the point. The game is fucked up because these chicks is making too much money. They want superior dudes. And then the dudes, it's harder to get into a provider position than it is back in the 30s through motherfucking, you know, 70s and shit. That's just what it is. So those two things are what fuck up the dating market monetarily. You can also look at the cost of living, the mortgages being high and all this stuff, and the student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera. I broke it all down in the last video. You should check it out. But that's it for today.